let's start talking about the new record. So the Fundamental Slimes and Humours, it's coming out April 1st on Mystery Box. Tell me about the record.
Well, let's see. It's been a long time in the making. In terms of, if you go back to the first song that was written for it, "This Is It" was actually the first song that was written for the album, and Nikki had written that song at the end of 2018, I think, right when we got off Warped Tour. And it kind of was, we were almost going to just release it as a single by itself. We even had recorded a lot of the preliminary things that still ended up on the final recording in like early 2019. Then we had tours in between, we had other stuff going on, and come 2020, when we were done touring, and then suddenly we're trapped at home. We realized we had enough material to, like, let's just put it on a full album. Nikki's our singer and our main songwriter. He writes everything and composes everything. He had so many ideas by then that we're like, all right, we have enough for an album. Let's sift through all this and just make a full album of this. And so it was a long process because Nikki had so much material this time around. Usually we have Nikki writes like 10 to 12 songs, and like, these are the songs, these are all going on. This time he had so many ideas. He was kind of like just flowing with creativity on this one, that we really had to go through and decide what we wanted this album to sound like as a whole. What songs together here make a statement that we are the craziest goblin band that exists. So it was a bit of a long process, a lot of deliberation, but it was a lot of, the silver lining of the pandemic for us was that we didn't have a deadline. Really, we were really able to get just agonize over details, which sometimes feels worse, but in retrospect, I'm really happy with the results of that. So that was the process of coming about it. And we worked with Jason Sukoff on it, a producer and mixer that worked with us on the last album, and it was great working with him again. And this time, this is the first time I think we've gone to the same producer after consecutively, because we were so happy with his results last time, and we had so much fun working with him. Yeah. So I think having that pre-established working relationship helped too. He really feels like a bandmate at this point. So working with him on it, like he had a huge influence on how it sounded, obviously, and he was a great sounding board for feedback on what was working, what wasn't working, and that basically covers it, I think.
Yeah, you burned through like 7 of the questions I was going to ask you about. Okay. That's cool. It's funny. When I was like reading up on the recording of the record, or like trying to figure out what happened, I saw Jason Sukoff coming up. I didn't realize that his studio was like 20 minutes from my house here in Florida.
Oh, really? You're in Florida?
Yeah, I'm from Ireland, but I moved to Florida in 2014, and I guess his place is like 20 minutes from me. It's up by Sanford.
Sanford, yeah.
Yeah. It looks like a pretty sweet like property he's got up there with the studio on it and everything. It looks like a pretty chill place to record.
Yeah, it's chill. Yeah, it's just like it's in his house, so it's like he's got his big studio room, and he's got a drum room on as a separate building on the property. But it's connected to his living room and everything. So we'll go in, we'll track a bunch, and then we'll go in his living room and hang out and watch movies and shit. He's a homie, so it's unique. I've never worked with a producer where we had that kind of working relationship, but it's overall I think it kind of helped make everything feel relaxed and fun. Yeah,
he definitely seems, when you look at his socials, he definitely like champions the band. I think that's cool. I spoke to Will Putney recently, and he was talking about like working with body counts and how he feels like an additional member of the band, and it's cool that you guys feel like Jason is part of the band as well. That makes for a much easier working relationship across like multiple albums or whatever.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it really it creates a consistency too of sound, and also like when it's things, especially in any creative space, if you're having a good time doing it, I think your results are going to be better. So with Jason, that's always the case for us. So
especially for a band like Nekrogoblikon, where there's obviously like there's a huge amount of humor in like the music that you make and everything. So if you're not vibing with the person in the studio, it's gonna be very hard to make that like fun and enjoyment come out on the record,
Totally, yeah. And Jason has a lot of like fun ideas too to throw in, just like like obviously, yeah, you know, Nicky's coming up with the bare bones of it all, but you know, some of the harmony ideas, some of the where he takes some of Nicky's ideas sometimes is really awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that was something I was really interested to find out was like, so you guys did like heavy metal where like all of you were contributing to the writing, and then for Welcome to Bonkers, rather, you decided to just go with Nicky writing all the songs.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting because it's like one of those things where it can be hard in a band where everyone wants to contribute or like everyone wants to be a part of everything. And I feel like a lot of bands that operate at a higher level, like, I don't want to say like people know their place as in being put in their place, but like everyone understands where the strengths and in the band are. And I'm curious about how that process worked for you guys. Like, was it like a defined conversation, or was it something you guys kind of all realized and decided to move forward with?
It was always an ongoing conversation because the way the band begun was just with Nicky and the co-founder Tim who left in 2013. So it started as a very kind of a what's the word I'm looking for, focused project where it was just like these two guys had the vision, and then it got fleshed out to a full band. And they released Goblin Island, the two of them recorded it, and I joined like a couple months after they released it themselves because they wanted to do a live band out of it. And then so we had Stench, which was still mostly those two, but then I got to write a song on it. I wrote a lot of parts on that album.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of moving towards like, maybe we should be a more democratic band. And, so then Power EP, it was a little more spread out too. It was me and our drummer at the time and Nicky and Tim writing on that. And then Tim left right after the Power EP. And for Heavy Meta, that was when we're like, all right, everyone gets a song on this. And, and not to say like we regret that album, but the album feels, in retrospect, it feels a little unfocused, and it's not sure what band it wants to be.
Yeah.
And that would always, and it felt like a problem while we were working on it, and it was like, and I'm still proud of it, and I like a lot of songs on it still, but like, once we released that album, I knew like we need a more focused sound. And the band started with a focused sound too, because I think there's some bands where you start collaboratively, and every band has their own mojo, So I think for some bands, they've begun collaboratively and they reached what was good about them from being collaborative. So maybe those bands, if they took this approach, this wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
But I think for Nekrogoblikon, especially with Nicky being now the sole original member, from just the onset.
That's you guys,
yeah, it makes the most sense for him to be he's the original chef,
Yeah.
So, I think it works better that way.
It's got to be tough when you're doing like collaborative writing in terms of like everyone brings a song. I mean, if everybody's working together on songs, which people do less now because everybody kind of writes on computers, but like it can make more sense. I mean, if you've got a band like Slayer where you've got two writers who are very, very similar anyway, it can work. But I mean, like you say, when you've got everybody's trying to bring across what they think Nekrogoblikon is or should be, then that's going to make for something like slightly more disjointed.
Yeah, it just feels a little compromised. Yeah, it feels like you didn't get a full, just detailed vision of someone's, and Nicky's always been such a gifted songwriter too. Sure. He's always written the best material that Nekro's had, in my opinion. But I know he enjoys collaboration, and he wanted to give everyone, we should all do this. And, after Heavy Meta, I was like, me and our manager were like, it should be you. Yeah. And I still, I throw in a couple solos there. I provide a lot of feedback. And ultimately, I like the degree to which I'm creative in the process is kind of all I need, because I handle a lot of the logistical stuff with the band, and all this outside of that. So I'm playing to all my strengths currently. So it's kind of this is a better place for me,
Yeah, I get you. That's cool. Yeah. So take me back. Tell me about how you got started with the guitar. Was it like, were you into music first, or did guitar get you into music, or how did that work for you?
It started with, so like the first music I ever got into was like, I never got into like band music or artists. I got it. I was when I was a little kid, I was so into video games. So I really liked video game music, like and movie soundtrack music. So I think ultimately finding my way to metal kind of makes sense with the compositional style. And I think around like 11 or 12, I started to pay attention to popular music, and I started to like, watch MTV and like, and got really into new metal. Korn was my favorite band like throughout my teens. And then slowly found my way to more melodic stuff. Discovered Children of Bodom in high school, and I think I think that's the reason I'm in Nekrogoblikon, is discovering Children of Bodom for sure. But
I was gonna say, because like I think we're probably like roughly around the same age, but like I feel like for a lot of those bands, like the new metal bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit and everything like that, their guitar style is so I don't want to say simple, but like not particularly technical. That for you to go from there to what you play now, but like for you to go from that to like the more technical stuff that you play now and like the high proficiency stuff, I mean, you must have at some stage sat down and went, okay, I got to get better at the guitar. You know what I mean? Like drilling things. Was there a point? Did that point happen for you, or?
I specifically remember the first time I started using my pinky finger on guitar. I was learning a Lamb of God song when they were first coming up, and I thought their riffs were so cool, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna need to use this. in order to get this riff down.
That's amazing. I didn't realize you were one of the like 5% of guitarists that actually uses their pinky. That's very impressive.
out of necessity. If I didn't have to, I wouldn't.
I mean, I'm right there in the not having to. So that's cool, man. So when did you like start playing in bands as opposed to just playing at home?
In high school, I feel like I had 2 or 3 bands in that we like get together, jam, write music. We never played a show or anything, never even got to that point. And then I got to college, and that's where I met Tim, who was the co-founder of Nekrogoblikon. That's how I joined. That's when I started like a metalcore band when I got there, and we played like 2 shows. And after that I was in Necro, and then so I joined when I was 19, 34 now, so it's been a minute.
That's crazy. So Necro is basically like your first like proper band, I guess, other than the band that played 2 shows.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Somehow managed to. Yeah. It's like when people like married their high school sweetheart or something.
Yeah, that's wild. So as far as like guitar gear, are you I see you've got the orange amp and you got the cab behind you. Are you a gear person at all? Or are you is it like a functional thing to you?
It's pretty functional. I over time I get more and more into it. Like, like I have this thing right here, this Peppers pedal from New Zealand, this clean boost pedal. Highly recommended, by the way.
Nice.
I'm slowly getting more and more into gear. I feel like when I started, I was just like, whatever works. I care more about composition and playing. That's what interests me. But I think, the older you get and the more you do this, the more you want to perfect every aspect of what you're doing. So So just got a Kemper, like a couple years ago, or a year ago. I got the Kemper. So I haven't used it live yet. I haven't had a chance to. So I'm still learning how to set it up with automations and stuff. That's funny, because I feel like what a lot of people, when they get a Kemper, like the first thing they want to do is take it out for like fly dates or like festival dates or whatever, because it makes it much easier than carrying around cabs and heads and dealing with inconsistencies and stuff. Yeah, I was using Axe Effects before that for years too.
Okay.
I've been into the direct ins. It's like 2015. Just because I didn't want to have to carry my cab and amp head around. I also had I had my first amp head, the PV6505 Plus.
Yeah,
I got that when I was I think like 19 or 20, when I was like working at Guitar Center and used my discount to buy that, and then it got stolen.
Really?
I'm like, and I was like, I'm just gonna figure out the digital world and just keep this simple.
So going from the Axe Effects to the Kemper, I know you said that you haven't spent a huge amount of time with the Kemper, but how would you compare the two?
Oh, I've spent a lot of time with the Kemper. I just haven't played with it live yet. So I haven't used, I'm just now learning how to use the automations and performance mode. Because the biggest sell to me for the digital amp world was not only the ease of bringing it on tour, but also the amount of automation you can do, because we have a lot of patch changes, and like and stuff like that. We use all kinds of different tones, and to be able to program that onto our brain laptop instead of having to do a pedal dance was so it like took away a lot of the stress of performing live, especially if we like, you know, if we want to switch sides, me and Joe, the other guitarist, we want to switch sides or something like that, and then suddenly realize we're not next to our pedals for a part, like, oh shit, you know, like, like, and we're totally the types of guys who would forget that, and so having everything preset, pre-automated, it's just like taking out as many variables in the live equation as possible is always a comforting thing for me.
So when you were recording the record, did you just kind of use the stuff that Jason had at the studio, or how did that work?
Yeah, we used one of the STL plugins. Actually, we use Mark Lewis's pack. So Mark Lewis and Jason Tukoff used to work side by side and like, you know, work together on a lot of albums, like a couple Black Dahlia Murder albums and a ton of other ones. So it's his guitar pack we used on the with Jason's settings and everything. That's what we used on the album. It just sounded great. Like
that's awesome.
It was the first. It was like we came upon the tone pretty fast, and it was like, it's like, this is it. This is all right. Like, let's not. So I feel like that's, if you spend too much time on tone, I feel like you'll get the wrong one. I feel like there has to be a kind of a gut, like immediately, like, oh, that feels good, and then tweak it from there. But if you don't have that initial feeling on something when in its raw version, I feel like you're probably best suited for something else.
I gotcha. And then for guitars, what were you using on the record?
So well, we used Jason's with Kiesel guitars. So we used a lot of his Kiesels. I just, you know, I mainly use Ibanez myself, and I'm an Ibanez artist.
Okay.
So that Ibanez is my guitar of preference. That feels the best for me. Kiesels feel really good too. They sound great too. Like I put the two like basically on par. I prefer the playability of Ibanez, but yeah, you know, Jason had Kiesel, so yeah.
It's wild that Kiesel are able to make such good guitars for the price that they sell them for, you know.
Yeah, they're all custom.
Yeah, it's insane. I've heard that they're putting up the prices recently, but it's still, I mean, it's bananas. What you would pay for like a custom American made guitar otherwise compared to what Kiesel's go for is, you know, it's crazy.
That's true. Yeah.
So as far as the album's out April 1st, April Fool's Day, obviously. What's the plan for the band after the record comes out?
So we're going to be doing a full US tour in June, and then after that, the following month, we go out to Europe to do some festivals and some headline club dates in between. And at this point, that's all we really have planned. But it should be a very busy summer for us.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to speak to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.